Yuan suddenly started to smile happily, and he was his usual self, as he turned around without making any sounds. Yet, one could see his lips curling upwards. There were no sounds except the occasional flapping of the birds that flew past the ship. Grabbing her waist, he pacified her lips, "Don't be scared." The moment his lips touched hers, she felt as though she was about to suffocate. Her body tummed warm. With her clothes being peeled off layer by layer, she was left in her most natural state. Tender, pristine white, she was like a jade statue that was made by a master craftsman. This was a territory that no one had set foot upon, filled with life and vigor. He softly leaned over. With their skins touching, it was as though an inferno was burning. Her breath was completely stopped. As her face was so close to his shoulder, she could see the vivid scar, as she suddenly shivered. He felt her sudden change and quickly covered her eyes. He told her, "Don't look yet." She pulled aside his hand as she stretched out her trembling hand and hugged him, with her tender skin touching his wound. Tears came out, wetting that maroon wound. Yuan quietly returned the soft embrace, and merely looked on as she cried. On the day Xiaoxi had been buried, she swore not to cry ever again. Yet, after looking at his wound, at the places that she had stabbed, she could not help but cry. She hugged him tightly in fear that he would disappear. Just like in that icy lake, after she released her hand, he disappeared. Yuan, I am sorry, she spoke as she cried. Idiot. Yuan kissed her silky hair and softly laughed. I have been made ugly by you. You must take responsibility. Chu Qiao knew that he was joking. She retorted while sobbing. The wound is on the shoulder, it doesn't count. Yuan chuckled, and his dark eyes seemed so deep, as he focused on her shadow. Gently, he kissed her tear-stained face and muttered, I don't care. I will still make you take responsibility. His arms were so forceful that she felt a bit of pain. Yet in the pain, she felt such joy, as though she was overwhelmed by a sea of euphoria. It was great to be alive. She had once thought that all would be lost, as he was buried in the icy cold lake with no chance to redo anything. As their bodies grew more entangled, sweat started to seep out from their forehead. They were surrounded by the soft splashing of the river, without any one sound. Even time seemed to have stopped, with only them still indulging in each other. Chu Qiao could not help but to give a stifled yelp, her body arching in pain as a bright crimson liquid flowed out from between her legs. His motion suddenly stopped as his eyes were filled with disbelief. Yet, he looked deep into her, as though asking her what to do. Her face was so red, and even her lips seemed to be swollen. She stretched out for her clothes to cover her chest, as she was lost for words knowing that he had seen.
He suddenly laughed. Chu Qiao had never seen him laugh like such before. Initially he was merely smiled, but eventually he started laughing out loud. So loud that Chu Qiao attempted to shut him up by stretching out her hand. Yet he suddenly buried his face next to her, and quietly he said, Xinger, I am so happy. Her tender limbs embraced his body. His figure was so good that it rivaled even models on TVs. In the darkness she smiled. The pair of red candles had gradually burnt out. As she smiled she thought, I guess this will be my first time. After being separated by so many people, so many incidents, so much time, they still walked together even though they were originally from different worlds and different countries. Leaning on his shoulder, she freely let her tears flow. In the middle of the night, rain started to fall. One could hear the pitter-patter of the raindrops on the boat. As the boat sailed on the river, one could vaguely hear the sounds of the wind mixing into the silence of the night. In the night, Chu Qiao wakes up, her hair scattered by her side. Her face was still red even though she was still in a daze, and her pristine white skin was like white silk hidden in the layers of blanket. She stretched out her hand to the side to feel to him, yet she only felt coldness. She was utterly stunned as her sleepiness vanished and sat up, only to see that the entire room was empty. It was then she noticed the rain outside. She suddenly felt a sense of fear. She flipped off the bed. Yet, the moment she touched the ground, her knees buckled as the pain in her lower half reminded her of how last night was not a dream, and that everything had changed. Chu Qiao put on an aqua blue one-piece dress, and along with a fluffy cape, she picked up a bamboo umbrella and walked out. It was rather chilly outside as the drizzle was faced by the winds. Even as she held an umbrella, raindrops fell on her dress. She hurriedly rushed across the deck as darkness seemed to consume everything. She could still hear the occasional sound of apes crying in the mountains. There he was, standing at the front of the deck, and it seemed like he had been standing there for quite a long time. In his white shirt, he seemed ever so cool. There was a tinge of gloom as he stood in the shadow. Hearing her footsteps, he turned around. Even as he saw her, he did not feel surprised, and merely stretched out his hand and called out, "Come here." Chu Qiao went over and lifted the umbrella to cover him as well. The rain might have been just a drizzle, but even then he would still got wet if he stood in it for too long. His clothes had already been drenched, and Chu Qiao could not help but comment, "Couldn't you tell that it was raining? The wind blew on them." Their sleeves waved along with the passing winds. Grabbing her hand, his fingers were lanky yet strengthful. He suddenly pulled her into an embrace without making any sound. Just like that, he hugged her. He had not used much strength, but there seemed to be a mysterious force that petrified her, causing her to not want to make any movement. He proposed already. Don't forget to continue for the next part.